In this section, we will learn how we can go ahead and how we can install WordPress on the Mac operating system. So if you are using the Windows operating system, then I would recommend you to watch the previous section that is all about the Windows operating system. Alright, let's just go ahead and let's get started. So as in the section number 1, that was all about the introduction of this course. We got to know that in order to actually use WordPress, we need to have a server, because WordPress is actually developed in a language called PHP. Not only that, WordPress also connects with the database that is the MariaDB. So Xampp, this is basically a software that comes with Apache, that is actually a server, PHP, which is the language, and MariaDB, which is a database that can run PHPMyAdmin. So in this lecture, we will learn how we can go ahead and how we can install this software so that we can go ahead and we can actually run WordPress, because WordPress is based on PHP. Alright, so now the very first thing that you actually need to do is to go to apachefriends.org. And once you are on this website, now you do not need to click this button that says the Xampp for OS X. And the reason for that is because this is going to download the virtual machine version or the VM version. Now VM version is really much bigger in size and it's quite really buggy, and that is why I would highly recommend you to install the normal version. So how you're going to install that? What you need to do is to go ahead, visit the website, click on the download button over here. Now you need to go down and you should see on the third line we have got the latest version of the Xampp. So on the third line, whatever that is, whatever the version you are on, that is going to be the latest version, and the size of it is going to be either between 160 to 165. Alright, so make sure to install this on the third line. The one that is on the sixth line is the latest version, which is actually the VM version over here. That would be above the 350 MB. But what we need to do is to download the normal version that would be in between 160 and 165 MB. All you need to do is to click on this download and the Xampp will now be downloaded. Alright, so now once the Xampp is actually downloaded, now what we need to do is to open that up. So let's open that up and you should see a folder like this. Now we will double click on it and it will ask for our Mac operating system password. So let's enter the password, that is your Mac operating system password. Now we will click on OK and the Xampp will now be loaded. Alright, so now once the Xampp is actually loaded, you should see this setup file over here. And this process is really very simple because we have to just press the next, and next. So let's just go ahead and let's press next, next. Just uncheck this and hit on next. And now you can see that the Xampp is being installed on our computer. Now, depending on your CPU, this is going to take some time, so I'll be going ahead and I'll be pausing my recording, and once this is actually installed, I'll be back. Alright, so now the Xampp is actually successfully installed on my Mac. And now we are ready to start our server. So now what we need to do is to just uncheck this, and now we have to hit on finish. Now once you're done with that, you can just close this window, you can open your Finder, and you can eject your Xampp from here. That's it, and once you're done with that, you can also close these tabs as well. And now let's just go ahead and let's start our Xampp server. So in order to start our Xampp server, we first have to open up our Finder, and now we have to go into the Applications folder. And now inside the Applications folder, here you should see this Xampp, because we actually installed the Xampp in our Applications folder. All you need to do is to open this file, and now you should see this Manager-OS X. So we need to click on it, and it will now ask for our password again, so we will enter that, and now we will hit on OK. Now remember this thing. Whenever you will be like restarting your computer, shutting down your computer, and now when you want to visit your website again, you have to go into the Manager-OS X. Now you have to go into the Manage Servers, and now you have to start your server. So in this particular course, we're going to be working with the Apache server and also the MySQL database. So if this is already started, do not worry about it. This is going to be started for the first time only when you will install that, and later on when you will shut down your computer, this is going to be stopped. So what you need to do is to select this, click on the start, select your MySQL database, click on start, and now these both two should be running once this gets turned into green. Alright, so now we have got these both two servers running. Now let's just see how we can check if the server is actually running. And that is, all you need to do is to open your browser. And now you have to type in here localhost, and now you have to hit enter. And once you will hit enter, you can see that we have got this Xampp running perfectly okay. Alright, so now let's just go ahead and let's open up our Xampp over here. Now you can see that this Apache web server is running. Now let's suppose that when you were actually starting this, it did not run, then what to do? So this usually happens because of a blocked port. So if you were having an error, make sure to watch this from here. And if you did not have any error, then also continue watching because we're talking about a really important point over here. Basically, when we start a web server over here, then the web server is actually started on the local host. Now, inside our Mac, let's suppose that we want to install some of the other applications too. Now, these applications might conflict with the local host because the local host has a default port for all the websites that is the :80. And the Xampp also uses that. So what I would actually recommend you to do is to go ahead and change your port. Now what actually is a port, you do not need to worry about it, but make sure to actually change your port so that in the future when you will be installing some of your applications, that applications should not conflict with the Xampp over here and your server might not run perfectly. So what we actually need to do is to select this Apache web server. Now we have to click on this configure, and this is going to open up this right here that says configure Apache web server. Now we will go ahead and inside the port we will write here 80 instead of the 80 we will write here 8080. And this will be our specific port for the Xampp so that in the future, even if we install any application, that is not going to conflict with the Xampp. Now we have to click on OK, and it's going to tell us to restart the server, so we will select yes. Now this server is going to be restarted, and once this gets restarted, we will go ahead and we will refresh this page, and you can see that this site cannot be reached is showing. So now what we have to do is to go to localhost, but not we have to only write the localhost, we also have to add the port because we have just changed the default port. So what we will now write is that we will write localhost :8080, and now we have to hit on enter, and now you can see that this Xampp is running. So this was actually a precautionary method that I wanted you to do so that in the future if you install any application that is not going to conflict with the Xampp over here. Now make sure to remember that when you will shut down your PC and when you want to visit your website that we will be installing WordPress later on in the next lecture, then you have to restart the server so that you can access the website. Now let's talk about the WordPress. So how we can go ahead and how we can actually run WordPress in here. Basically, now we can see that the Apache web server is actually running, which means that when we enter this local host, alright, :8080, and we hit on enter, it is taking us to this dashboard. Alright, so why is it taking us to the dashboard, and why we are not being given the empty over here so that we can actually install WordPress inside here and the WordPress homepage should be loaded, right? This is the question that we have in mind, and let's answer that. So when we actually install Xampp automatically install some of the files right here so that you can check that okay, the Xampp is running perfectly. Now, what we need to do is to delete all those files. So if you go into the applications, and inside the applications, you go into the Xampp, you can see that we have got this htdocs. And this htdocs is actually the folder that is holding all the public files. So if we open this up, now you can see that we have got this dashboard, and Xampp is actually taking us to the dashboard. So what we will do is that we will press Command A to select all the files. We will right click on here and we will select Move to Bin, and we will get rid of each of the file and we will hit OK. Once we are done, now if we go ahead and we refresh this localhost :8080, you can see that we are getting the empty folder over here. And inside this htdocs, now we are ready to deploy our WordPress. So let's just go ahead, let's get a copy of WordPress, let's paste it in here, and let's work with the installation. So what we have to do, we need to go to wordpress.org. This is the official WordPress website, and we need to download a copy of WordPress so that we can install it on our local web server, that is the Xampp. What we have to do, we have to click on this Get WordPress, and we will be taken to the WordPress page. Now we have to click on Download WordPress, and WordPress is going to be downloaded. So now, once the WordPress is actually downloaded, now we do not need this tab anymore, so we will get rid of it. And now we will copy up our WordPress inside the Applications folder, Xampp, and the htdocs, which is the public folder. Now, I'll be referring to htdocs so that you already know that htdocs folder is in the Applications folder, Xampp, and the htdocs. And this is the folder that we will be only working with. Alright, so now what we need to do is to drag our WordPress zip file that we just downloaded, and we have to drop it in here. And now, if we go ahead and we refresh this page, you can see that we have got this WordPress zip file. So now what we have to do, we have to extract it. So we will open up the Finder, we will double click on it, and this file is going to be extracted right here. Now once this file gets extracted, inside here, we have got all the WordPress files that are based on PHP, and now we are ready to work with that. Since this file is the zip file and we do not need it anymore, we can right click on it and we can click on Move to Bin, and it's going to be deleted. Now if you go ahead and we refresh this, you can now see we've got this WordPress, and if we click on it, it takes us to the installation page, which means that it is finally working. But if we go ahead and we go to localhost only and we hit enter, you can see that we are given a folder, and if we click on it, we are actually taken to /WordPress, and then the website is loaded. However, when I visit this website, the website that we will be building as our 5th project inside this course, you can see that when I type in the domain name.com and I hit enter, the website is actually loaded. I do not have to write here /WordPress so that the WordPress has to be loaded, right? So when I type in the domain, the website is loaded. So how to actually configure that? For that, what we have to do, we have to open up our htdocs, and inside this WordPress folder, we will click on it, and now we will select all the files by pressing Command A, and now we will press Command C to copy these files. Now we will go back and we will paste all the files inside the htdocs. Let's hit on here, and now you can see that we have got all the files over here. Now we do not need this empty WordPress folder which already has a WordPress. So we do not need this because all the files that were inside this folder, we have already copied them over here. So what we will do is that we will right click on it and we will get rid of that. Now if we go ahead and we go to localhost :8080 and we hit on enter, it takes us to the setup page. And now we are ready to install WordPress. So from the next lecture, I will show you how we can go ahead and how we can install WordPress on our Mac operating system. Stay tuned and bye-bye.